Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, we're going through the Collingwood versus Melbourne Kings birthday clash, in which Melbourne couldn't kick straight. Simple as that. Same as Essendon were the night before. And that's ended up costing them, as they had two more shots than Collingwood. I mean, Collingwood would have run out winners most likely, I think. But in the end, because I don't think Melbourne would have kicked 15 goals 6 or 14 goals 7. But I think that Melbourne could have easily kicked even just 10 goals 11. 10 goals 11 would have made an 18-point margin and would have put some doubt into Collingwood. I'm not saying Collingwood would have lost, but I'm saying there would have been more doubt if they weren't 3 goals 15 or 3 goals 10 going into the last quarter. It was something dumb. It was really, really bad. And yeah, and it looks like Melbourne's season is over now with Petrarca going in for surgery for broken ribs, some sort of laceration on the spleen and some other injuries as well. It looks like he's looking at a month or so out on the sideline, at least, I would say, is the initial concern. As they did, what did they end up with here? I'm just going to double check this. Round 13, Collingwood versus Melbourne at 3/4 time. They were 4 goals 11. And then they kicked 2 goals 4 in the last quarter. In the second half, they kicked 4 goals 9. And yeah, every quarter they kicked, other than the second quarter where they kicked 2 goals 2, they kicked a negative split. And that's just not going to win you games. And I just want to bring up the Christian Petrarca news. Let me just bring that up quickly, because that's something that flagged in the morning. 4 broken ribs, lacerations to the spleen, and a small puncture of the lung. And the injury extent of his layover will be known in the coming days, but that looks bad. The thing about that is, and people will be like, oh, why didn't they bring him off? It is a harder one to, I guess, I think identify just from what we've been sort of told. And I think that I think it became obviously clear when he didn't get touched and he was still down hurt. So I'm just wondering if that was if there's anything to play out with that one, whether it is it was so obvious, etc. Or whether it was something that they needed to almost have him go back out there just to feel the contact or how it would play out or whatnot. But yeah, you could almost tell first possession after he came back on that it was cooked. Anyway, before we jump into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the video. So, Josh Dacos, 130. I don't think he was that good with the ball in hand, but he just got a mountain of the ball. I'm pretty sure he ended up somewhere around the most turnovers, clangers, etc. in the game, and I don't think he had too many Supercoach points, from the Supercoach fantasy split. I don't think was the best. Yeah, 130 and 98 split, similar to, I'm guessing, Nick Martin. If we just go here to the back here, nope, I want to go to matches, fixture, I want to go to round 13, then want to go to Collingwood, and then want to go to here, want to go to my stats here and just show you. Where is he? 5 and 4. That's not actually too bad. So what was it? Advanced stats maybe? Maybe that will show what we're trying to look in here. Nick Dacos here. Josh Dacos. 67% disposal efficiency. 12 contested possessions. 22 uncontested possessions. Interesting that he hasn't got too many, to be honest with you, in intercept possession. I'm surprised his score is like that. Maybe they just didn't like the split of how many possessions he got for intercept possessions. Can you give me a... Yeah, there we go. Then you go to Jack Crisp, a 104 from him. 45 in the first. He looked on fire, to be honest with you. Glad that I brought him in now for my fantasy team, because they were all just a bunch of... just a mid-price madness at my fantasy side, which is just the most annoying part is... Yeah, I just missed out on a lot of guys and their rise, which was annoying because I was hesitant on Jordan Clark, hesitant on Tristan Cherry and stuff like that. So, yeah, I got to rethink my ideas and principles about that a little bit and sort of what I'm happy with going forward. But Jack Crisp was one that I saw pretty obviously with the role change into the midfield, and that was one that brought him, I think it's something like 5 straight hundreds, and I was one that jumped on him, and glad to have him now because he's one of my consistent scorers. Lipinski, 103, I'm not tempted to go there. He's averaging 74 for a reason. Maynard 102, Noble 94, averaging 81 for a reason. Howe, 88. Side bottom, 86. Kruger, 79 was an interesting one to see. Don't think he had too many hit-outs, to be honest with you. One hit-out the whole day. But he was just really impactful with in the contested marks, to be honest with you. I know Gawn had a lot of contested marks. I think he ended up with 3 or 4. But in the end, I thought he was pretty impactful. Let me actually just check that. Gawn ended up with 3 contested marks. So did Van Rooyen and Stephen May. So they owned the air, but in the end, it didn't really matter too much as, everything else, the Pies touch turned to goal. But yeah, I think Kruger had a really good game and interested to see him post by if he's still in the side for Supercoach purposes. Hoskin Elliott, Darcy Cameron, a 76, but he was really impactful Supercoach-wise. I think he ended up with 100 or so, I would think, maybe 95. 98 for Cameron, so he scored the same as Josh Dacos on almost 2/3 of the fantasy score. Harrison, a 71, he was really impactful and sort of glad that I have him in my Supercoach side. When he does stuff like this, he really does impact the game. Quaynor, 70, McRae, 68, he really fell off. He was on, he was on, I believe it was 13 possessions at halftime, and then he did nothing in the second half. But again, he's showing glimpses, which is all right. It's year 4 for him, so he probably should be showing more, but starting to show signs. McCreary, 64, his real barometer for the Collingwood when he really does get the tackling up, and he did get the tackling up in the last quarter with 4 tackles. I was really surprised to see him on, I think, 3 tackles or so deep into the fourth quarter, well, most of the way through the fourth, and then he just goes tackle, 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 and gets 3 more tackles. I think he ended up with 7 tackles on the day, which is sort of what I think McCreary type is, where he can get, I think, 1 goal, 10 or so touches, and about 7 or 8 tackles a game, I think is what McCreary is best for. Markov, then Dacos came off in the third quarter. And yeah, this last kick here, I believe, was the one that kicked, that basically screwed him over. He just got kicked in the shin, and they took him out, didn't bother playing him in the last. So I think he would have probably had he was starting to shape the tag, so I'm pretty sure he would have probably had somewhere around a 90 or so finish, 85 to 90 finish, which isn't the greatest anyway. But yeah, it wasn't too bad, and means that he's just going to be more undervalued in seasons to come, because he's had basically one less quarter in the game. You can almost say is basically a point worth of value on his season average that he's lost now because of this injury, which isn't as bad as the what was it, last year or whatever, when he had probably 4 or 5 points worth of value because of injuries. But yeah, this one injury you could almost say is worth at least a point, if not more, because he was getting tagged, and you got to take that into account. But he basically missed a quarter, which if we think a quarter is worth 25 points, like I was equating it to, across 23 games, that's like a point and a bit. So yeah, he's lost. He's definitely going to have a little bit of value, I think, potentially next year. Dean, Schultz, Moore, Sullivan. Sullivan came on, didn't come on, but he definitely did fire up in the last. You can see they would have liked some more points, but didn't do anything in the second half of that last quarter. As if he got into like a 70, that definitely would have been impactful. Frampton, Hill, and Bytel came on. Gawn was huge. And yeah, if he didn't have a bad third quarter, if he had a decent third quarter, he would have ended up like a 160 or 170 score. That was just ridiculous. A 23 is a bad quarter for Gawn. And yeah, he was just taking everything. No non-disposal, one non-disposal act in the... I say this in the preface of discounting his hit out. I meant that in terms of marks and tackles. There was only one action of a mark in the third quarter, and yeah, that's kind of the difference with him. He was up, I think, at 8 or 9 marked and 2 or 3 tackles, I think. So he ended up quite a lot of non-disposal acts alongside his hit-outs. Didn't end up with a goal early on, ended up with a behind, which that definitely would have helped out if he'd kicked that goal early, gotten them into sort of a array, gotten them on the run and sort of kicked them on. But he didn't. Trent Rivers, 101. Salem, 95. He's been one of the pickups. One of the decent ones. It's not as good as Crisp, because Crisp was scoring hundreds and Salem sort of anywhere between 70 and 120. But I feel like he was still a decent enough pickup for those that went for him. Piggott, 95. He was one that could have been a game changer. Like we were talking about with... who was it in the... Who was it in the last game that we're talking about? Not DeConey, Elijah Holland. Pickett is someone similar where he can win games off his own boot. He's so impactful. And it was one of those games where he had enough of the pill to do it. He just kept on kicking behinds. So if he actually kicks, I don't know, instead of 1 goal 4 or 2 goals 4 or whatever, if he kicks, what did he end up with? I think 2 goals because he had a goal disallowed and taken away because of, I believe it was a behind in the end, touched on the line or something. If he ends up, or was it touched? Yeah, touched. I think it was touched off the boot. If he ends up that game with 3, 4, 5 goals instead of 2 goals, he starts to almost swing it in their favour. And if Gawn had ended up kicking, they just missed so many chances. Windsor 81 thought he was good, but again, sort of a winger. He's going to have games where he's good, some games where he just doesn't get him in the game. Like we've seen that with Wilson. We've seen it with Sharp as well. Sharp's more likely just because of the style that Freo play to get more of those uncontested marks. But Windsor, yeah, he just isn't doing it consistently enough to be in most teams anymore. Van Rooyen, 79, thought he was really good. Fritsch, 76. Viney and Oliver. Again, just the midfield punch of Viney, Oliver and Petrarca has been so off this year. It's been so weird to see. Oliver, 84. He might be value if he gets a full preseason. If he gets a full preseason, I'll be looking at that just because he looks off sort of physically at the moment. Neil Bullen, 66. May, 61. Sparrow, 59. Bowie, 57. Turner, Langdon, Laurie. Petrarca, 51. He's been off as well this season to a certain degree, and obviously this injury is probably, you could almost say, going to help him with 2 or 3 points worth of average, I would say, given that he probably is going to take a couple games to get back into the swing of things. So yeah, that average is going to go down. Petty, McDonald, McVie, Howes, and Chandler and Billings. Again, just not really anything from Melbourne side of things. But that pretty much is the video there going through Collingwood's win. Collingwood are, I would say, alongside Carlton, the biggest challenges for Sydney. But I would say Collingwood are the biggest challenges when they get back to full health. I think that will generally be a 10 to 20 point game. I still have high backing of the Swans in that type of scenario. But it would be a lot more tense than games that we're seeing at the moment where Swans can basically not play a quarter and still win the game pretty convincingly. But that is the video there, and I'll see you guys in the next one, which will be my fantasy recap tomorrow alongside... That might be the only video tomorrow. Then Thursday we have the cash cows and trade targets, and then Friday you will have my team reveal as well as my predictions. But I'll see you guys in those videos upcoming. Bye, guys.